Good morning and welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known. I am your host, Stacy Brown.
Peace and love, everybody. I'm your co-host, Niele Anderson, and so much to talk about today, Stacy. Of course, we're going to be talking about the shutdown and the hostile takeover that's happening in our nation.
Debate.
But we also have some information about HBCUs, and we'll tell you how Lionel Richie is telling some of Michael Jackson's smelly secrets.
we also have a special guest this morning. We're going to talk about something that affects so many, colon cancer in the Black community. So it should be a really good discussion there. But let's throw it over to our producer, see what our producer has for us this morning as well.
My heart simply broke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in strong support of my bill, H.R. 4922, the D.C. Crimes Act. Rather than prioritizing the safety of law-abiding and protecting the lives of innocent residents and visitors, district officials have actively facilitated dysfunction and chaos through their progressive soft-on-crime policies. Instead of addressing the clear epidemic of youth crime in the city, the DC City Council increased the age of youth offenders to individuals 24 years old and younger, meaning fully grown legal adults in the District of Columbia can receive sentences meant for children. This is simply insane. And that is why I introduced the DC Crimes Act, which lowers the definition of youth from under the age of 25 to under the age of 18, removes the ability of judges to sentence youth offenders below mandatory minimum guidelines, and requires the DC Attorney General to establish a public website containing much needed statistics on juvenile crime in DC. The Trump administration's efforts have shown that lawlessness is a choice. And it is time for Congress to step up, adhere to our constitutional duty, and firmly address crime in the nation's capital.
Many people know me for being able to do alliterations, and all I could think about was amnesia allows adolescents accountability, avoidance, agility from across the aisle. So work with me for a second. Imagine being a young man born to Jamaican and Panamanian parents who messed up not once, but twice. Imagine standing in front of a judge with your whole future hanging in the balance, and instead of prison, you are given a promise of mercy. Your record gets wiped clean. You get a second chance at life. Now imagine taking that promise and turning it into promotion. You go to college, you get a job, and even become a member of Congress. That's what redemption looks like. That's what America is supposed to be about. And that is exactly the story of the next wannabe governor from Florida. As a young man, he went through pretrial diversion for misdemeanor marijuana possession. As an adult, yet younger than 24, he was charged with and ultimately placed on probation for felony bribery charges, which ultimately were 2 expunged. He was given a third chance, and now he's the face of a bill that would not afford young people in Washington, D.C. the same opportunities afforded to him. Let me be real. If he had grown up under Donald Trump's America or under the very DC crime bill he's pushing today, he wouldn't be standing here as a member of Congress. He'd still be living with the weight of those charges. So let's call this what it is: opportunities for me, but not for thee. He climbed the ladder of redemption, and now he's yanking it right up from the DC youth. See, most of us were taught to lift as you climb, but clearly some have forgotten to lift as they climb, and now they are committed to telling the next generation to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. I will not sit quiet while a man who was saved by grace turns around and tries to snatch grace away from others. If we're going
listen, who says it better than Jasmine Cracker? The audacity, the some of the buck dancing is just so pitiful. And Byron Donalds is one of the most pitiful human beings to ever walk the earth.
I think that Jasmine Crockett did an excellent thing by pointing out and reminding him. Maybe he forgot his past. Maybe he forgot what it took to get him to where he is today. And I just found it so interesting that he was going after minors when the biggest threat to this country is white men. I would have preferred to have heard something about why did the FBI remove the number one terrorist threat to this country is white men, not minority, not minors or juveniles, as you know, another term.
Mhm.
And so it just shows the hypocrisy of how these Republicans are moving and how it takes law. Now, Jasmine Crockett also is a model of what a lawmaker should be. She did her history, she did her research, right?
Mhm.
And she understood who she was responding to. And she had to do a little fact checking or reminding him of who he was. And so another reason why, we need to pay attention to Texas and make sure that she remains a Congress member.
That dude it's beyond, he's beyond the disgrace. He does. Let's move on from Byron Donalds before I say something. But Dr. Jones says Trump and MAGA seems to always forget that white American men are our biggest
Yeah.
threat.
And he worried
And
about minors.
yeah, I mean, he does everything he can to please his master. And I'm sure he will be changing the man's diapers and whatever else the man wants him or requires him to do. It doesn't matter. The Byron Donalds will be first in line. We sick boss. That's Byron Donalds.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
But the focus has to remain, and journalists should continue to push that the number one threat to this country, it's not minors, it's white men. And that just goes back to how this country was built on systemic racism and how white people, as particularly white men, get away with everything that they want to blame minorities for. And when it's time for the level of accountability for them, there is none.
None whatsoever. And here we are taking accountability. The government has officially shut down. And it's not just politics, folks. It's also survival, especially for Black families. Nearly 20% of the federal workforce is Black, yet the average Black household only has about $1,500 on average in liquid savings compared to $8,100 on average for white households. And when paychecks stop, Black workers are left more vulnerable with fewer safety nets and greater risk of collapse. So if Black families, Niele, are disproportionately hurt by every shutdown, how do we hold lawmakers accountable for weaponizing people's livelihoods?
Yeah, it is insane what's happening. The last federal shutdown, ironically, was under Trump's administration 6 years ago, and that lasted for 35 days. What I find interesting is the only salaries that the federal government is obligated to pay, according to the Constitution, is Congress and the president. Okay.
Yep.
So, to your point, the only people that are going to suffer are us, right? And a lot of things that are going to be impacted is like WIC, food stamps, and then the military. And when you look at what happened in Hexeth and Trump having all of those generals and high-ranking members in the military sitting there, knowing that they're not even going to pay them, right? You have all these people, these generals, these military people, you're speaking to them, you're talking down to them, you're threatening them. And a day later, they're not going to be paid.
Yeah, and Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer met with Donald Trump for a few minutes at the White House, and Donald Trump, of course, put up a racist meme about Hakeem, and he also sat in that meeting, folks, with his desk covered. Trump's desk was covered with Trump 2028 red hats, covered, toying with them, taunting them. And then he posted a racist meme about Hakeem Jeffries. This is where it's at. This is 100% where it's at. It's shut down. Trump wanted to shut down. The longest shutdown in modern history has been under Trump when he was president before. And this one you can expect. Listen, brace yourself. This one may not end.
Yeah, it will last long. And I think it also shows, like, Hakeem Jeffries voting on that resolution for Charlie Kirk. It didn't get us anywhere. We're still where he would have been if he would have voted against it. And so it doesn't matter. You can't, we are in different times right now. And you can't do politics in Congress like we did before. Different era, different time, need more different tactics. And now the American people are going to feel it. Another thing that's going to be impacted is travel, right? Air traffic controllers, TSA. Now they're obligated to go to work, but guess what? They do have sick time. They do have vacation time. And so travel is going to be impacted. So many things that we take for granted every day is going to be impacted by the shutdown. And to your point, Stacy, this could go longer than 35 days.
I fully expect this to see. This is all. Just look at the tea leaves. The tea leaves have never been more readable than what they are now. The National Guard everywhere, the shutdown, all of this allows the president. The shutdown allows him to do pretty much whatever, unchecked. But this president is already unchecked, and it allows him to, it feeds all into his declaration of an emergency where there will not have to be an election. And that includes your midterms next year. I'm looking for this to go on throughout the duration of the Trump presidency. I'm just telling you. There's a report that says, and I think it was ProPublica, and folks, ProPublica is fantastic. Support ProPublica. We tell you to support the Black press. Yes, you want to do that first, but support ProPublica. But there's a report that ProPublica put out that this money that Doge is supposed to have saved and all this other stuff with USA, with they're letting those kids die instead of sending aid. Trump decided to do that. They're saying that there's no trace of that money. Billions upon billions of dollars. There's no trace of it. They can't find it.
I mean, that's not surprising.
Right.
They're not going to find it because they stole it.
Right,
And
100%.
Elon Musk got away with it. And now you have Larry Ellison kind of behind the shadows. The thing about, to me, Elon Musk was out front, right? Which was a problem for Donald Trump in a lot of ways because he likes to have all the attention. Part of that money didn't just go to Elon Musk, but it also went to, and I'm going to say allegedly, Larry Ellison, who is really just as powerful or more powerful than Elon Musk. And he's in the shadows and we don't see him. He's part of this big TikTok takeover. And so I'm not surprised that they can't trace the money because it went to all of Donald Trump's friends. And I'm going to tell you, as I was walking the streets of DC and I was looking at all of these big, beautiful government buildings and thinking about how Trump is, he's going to sell all that stuff off to his friends in China and everywhere else. This country might not be familiar a few years from now.
It's not familiar now for the most part, and it's getting less and less familiar. So you're right.
For Black folks, I will say for Black folks, it's very familiar because white people know white people. Okay. We've been here before.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. At least our ancestors have, and our not even that far back, right?
Right.
When you think about a lot of the measures we talk about Civil Rights Act, we talk about Voting Rights Act, we talk about all this other stuff. Those things are in the not too distant past. That just shows you just how, when you talk about your conversations about reparations, when you think about that, all of these years, hundreds and hundreds of years, and things started to change a little bit with certain laws, like the affirmative action in the 1970s, folks. Affirmative action was in the 1970s. To try at least give a level playing field or somewhat of a playing field, at least put us on the 10-yard line when the other folks were already on the other side of the other side of the field, past the 50-yard line.
Right. Yeah, we had okay, so during Dr. King's time, we were looking for equality, right? We were pushing for equality. We were moving into a space of wanting equity now, right? And understanding the difference between equality and equity. Now both are snatched.
It's the snatch. Right.
We're back down to, starting from scratch. And the only difference is back then There was a time where either Black folks were scared or you had a few Byron Donalds, but for the most part, we understood what was at stake and we moved as such. We're in an era now where technology has kind of muddled the water, especially for a Gen Z and a millennial generation, to where they're not really understanding or feeling the impact of what is actually happening right now. But we understand it because, like, to your point, we're not that far removed from it.
Not at all. Listen, Public Enemy was on Jimmy Kimmel the other day, night before last. Fight the Power. And Fight the Power, they did that. I mean, obviously, it's a remake of the Isley Brothers' original Fight the Power from the 1970s. But if you remember, that was a huge anthem in the late 80s when Public Enemy did that. And you think about it now, it's like white folks, there are some white folks saying Fight the Power.
Oh, it's a lot of white folks saying Fight the Power. Actually, it's the white folks right now that are really like Jolly Ginger. You know, you have the 50-51 movement.
I'm sorry I didn't meet him at the I wanted to meet him to get to meet Booker Square in person at the CBC week. I wanted to meet old ginger guy.
Yeah. But you know that they're at the forefront because they're feeling the impact too, you know. And so kudos to them, because that was one of the conversations during the Congressional Black Caucus as well. It's like, we know the fight, but we're also understand the importance of rest too. And when I rest, you fight. And when you rest, I fight. And that's how Black people are dealing with this civil rights or hostile takeover 2.0.
Yeah. Ginger has Black siblings, Greer says. Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't
All
know
of his siblings. Okay. Homeboy. What's up, homie? On another note, Niele, after more than 30 years, Reading Rainbow is back. The show that once taught children to believe they belong in books is returning with a new host, librarian Michael Threets, and a lineup of star-studded guests. For a generation, you remember LeVar Burton made reading feel like an adventure. It made it feel powerful, and it made you feel like you belong. Now, a new generation of children will get that same gift at a time when libraries and literacy is all under attack. Reading Rainbow's return reminds us every child deserves to see themselves in the pages, Niele.
That's great. I just hope that it can penetrate this new younger generation, because there's so many options. When we had Sesame Street, Reading Rainbow, Electric Company, there was only 5 channels, right? ABC, NBC. So at PBS. So, you know, we had only those. There's so many options now. I just hope that the show is able to connect with young people, because it was a great time when you had Sesame Street, Electric Company, and Reading Rainbow. They kind of like came on right after each other, and you would tune in back to back to back. But now you got Nickelodeon, the Cartoon Network, you have YouTube. The kids are on these tablets. I just hope that they find a way to penetrate the algorithm to get these young people's attention, because it is a great show. Schoolhouse Rock. Somebody said
Schoolhouse Rock. Yeah,
that was great.
Stephanie Humphrey says Schoolhouse Rock. Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah, and I mean, that taught us a bill. Remember, a bill is a bill on Capitol Hill. It taught you how a bill was made.
I am still just a bill.
You know?
And Shanae says it's great that Michael is hosting Reading Rainbow. He is a passionate librarian. That's what you need, somebody who is passionate, right?
Right.
LeVar Burton was very passionate as well. And I thought he fit that role so perfectly.
Right.
So, yeah, and Nancy, well, that's what I'm saying. LeVar did make reading fun and expressive. Patricia Jackson, I don't remember this one. Gracie's Corner is great too for our kids. Gracie's Corner, you know that one?
I don't know Gracie's Corner, but I believe you, Patricia.
We're not downing you, Patricia.
But yeah, and I think that, you know, reading is not.
Chris says she remembers.
She remembers Gracie's Corner. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, no, she says it's
She
new.
says it's new. Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, and reading is so important. And even
Mhm.
like, we're talking about civil rights. Reading was the black card for black folks during slavery, and Reconstruction, civil rights. If you could read, you were the hip hop artist of the time. You
Yeah.
were more important than an athlete if you knew how to read and if you can write. And remember how everybody wanted to be in the crisis, like Langston Hughes everybody wanted to be published. Everybody wanted to be a writer. Everybody wanted to, be educated. And that's just not the case anymore, which is why you see stuff like Cardi B and Nicki Minaj and
Oh
just
gosh. Oh,
doing their ABCs.
oh my God, that's just disgusting to me. Them two, and we don't have to go into this now. I will say Nicki Minaj and Cardi B need to just go away with this nonsense. They need to come on. We got bigger fish to fry, and they are acting like folks want them to act.
Mhm.
Dr. Joni says she says, I know I'm a Luddite, but I miss the days of 4 channels and PBS on
Me
most of the
too.
time.
Me too. And remember
So
that station where Pippi Longstocking would come
Pippi
on, and on
Longstocking.
Saturdays they would put those. I missed the 5 channel situation. And
And
Dr. John, he also says, no joke, I learned my letters from Sesame Street.
there you go. But Danielle Pierre also mentions Gracie's Corner being great, and Stephanie Humphreys uses Gracie's Corner in the classroom. And of course,
Nice.
RNG says the electric company had Morgan Freeman on it, and he was old in the 1980s.
Hilarious. I used to love on Electric Company that word game when the word would come out the mouth. I
Mhm.
love that. And I think it's also important to note that Sesame Street was created for children of color.
Right.
And one of the original singers was Luther Vandross.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Oh boy. And then Patricia says, keep educating our kids while they dumb down. It's so sad. I learned about government from Schoolhouse Rock. Yeah, a lot of us did.
Mhm.
Um, it's true because you mentioned that song. Today I'm still just a bill. That taught me. That was the
How
first
a
time I
bill is
really learned.
made. Yeah,
Right.
about Congress. And all those are so important. I had a chance to go to the African American Museum. I always trying to make a point to do that. And they had these books about, and I bought like 5 of them for my niece and nephew about, what is the Tulsa Massacre? Who
Mm,
is Ida B. Wells? Why is John Lewis important? And I bought all of those books because, to our point and what we're talking about right now, this younger generation, and I'm not even talking about millennials and Gen Zers, I'm talking about the ones that are in elementary school right now. They just think about it. They are not going to know Black history. They are not going to know their history because it's not going to be taught to them. And if their parents are millennials and Gen Zers, who gonna teach it to them?
Dr. Marilyn said, I thought Kermit the Frog was my boyfriend. Don't judge me. Wow. No, no, no
Oh, the
judgment.
Muppets. We didn't even talk about the Muppets.
Right, right.
Jim
Well,
Henson and the Muppets.
isn't it like speaking of Dr. Marilyn with Kermit, don't you supposed to kiss the frog and he turns into a prince? So
Now
don't
that
so
was
we
a
can't.
movie. That was
No,
wasn't
but
that a
I'm
Disney
saying
movie?
it was a Disney movie, but I'm saying she said the frog was her boyfriend, so maybe she kissed him, he turned into a prince. So there
Mm,
you have it.
there you
um,
have it.
so I wanted to get folks' I thought my initial reaction was pure 1000% anger on this. I still don't like it as I read more onto this, but this teacher sings happy birthday to a Black child. And it's disgusting at first glance, and it's still disgusting, but do you have the audio? Okay, well, nonetheless, okay.
Would you like the funny song now that I sing to you? Okay, it goes like this. Happy birthday to you. You live in the zoo. You look like a monkey and you smell like one too. Woo! Give a clap,
I do
everybody.
not. I do not find that funny. Now I was outraged. Yeah, I there's like so many and the comments. And you see this black kid with all these white kids around, and you're saying that this kid uh, lives in a zoo, looks like a monkey, and smells like one too. Then, Neil, the Smithsonian Institution is on their site. It talks about the original song. Did say you look like a monkey and live in the zoo and smell like one too, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and there's a history with that. Two sisters actually wrote that song some years and years ago. It was supposed to be something different, but then they turned it into the happy birthday song.
I
But
remember that. I remember singing. I remember. I'm not saying. I would be interested to know if the teacher was white or black.
It's a
But
white teacher.
Oh, well, then it's totally unacceptable knowing the reference to monkeys and black people. But as a child, I used to sing that and it was funny. I remember singing, "You look like a monkey," but we would say it to each other, as
Mhm.
friends growing up. So I do remember that. But putting it into context of the state of our nation, no white person should ever, ever, never, ever be singing
Never
that to a
ever.
black child. Never,
Right.
ever.
Right. And then you read the room. I mean, you got a basically an all white class. You a white person yourself, and maybe you sang it to your white students too. I don't
Right.
know. But Dr. Nicole says they definitely weaponized that song against that poor kid. It's shameful. I think it is shameful. I hit the roof. I don't even know this kid. I don't know these people, but I was so angry. Bria shared this yesterday, and oh my gosh, I was angry.
Mhm.
Because this is what you do. Kids are not born racist. You teach them this hate. And
Right.
that was not that if I was I'm glad that I wasn't that child's parent.
Yeah, it was totally inappropriate. Michelle Madison says she remembers that song too. I totally remember growing up. We used to sing it, but context matters, and
Mhm.
being like it looked like he might have been the only black child in the class.
I think there was
Under
one other.
There was one other
Hmm.
understanding the reference to monkeys and black people.
Yep.
She should have known that that was not. Now she could sing it to the white kids all day long. Well, she really shouldn't sing it at all because then if she doesn't sing it to the black kids and she only sings it to the white kids, it's a problem, right? So she's not going to win either way. So just sing happy birthday, or how about this? There are a ton of new happy birthday songs, okay?
Well, it's a black
Ton of
kid.
new
How about
happy
the Stevie
birthday
Wonder
songs.
song? How
You
about the
know,
Stevie Wonder song
there's
for the black kid?
tons.
Yeah.
There's tons of Stevie Wonder. There's tons of even more fast forward that have come out within the past 5 years that she could have chosen. She just that song should just not be sung in classrooms for children at all because you're not going to
As
win either way.
I'm sorry.
as Greer, go
I
ahead.
gotta say
As Greer
something.
said, as Greer said, I was just about to say that. Go ahead, girl.
Because kids are, especially at that age, they're very sensitive. And if you're an only
Mhm.
black kid in an all-white classroom and you call a kid a monkey, they are not going to find that amusing. You know
Mm-mm.
what I mean? They're not. And you notice that the black kids were not smiling. They looked uncomfortable and they were not smiling because
Yeah.
how many times has that child been called a monkey by his classmates
Yeah.
or
As
her
Paula Moore
classmates?
says, you had the nerve to ask him, "Can I sing you a song?"
Right.
Had
Can
the
I
nerve.
sing a funny like that? And they were not, the two black kids in the frame were not laughing. So I just
No.
wanted to note the fact that children are uncomfortable at that age, especially in the classroom with two black kids, and you call them a monkey. How many times have they been called monkey by their classmates? They don't like it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep.
Aquarius Goddess says the song from the ice cream truck.
That was it.
Let's go there with the ice cream truck
Mhm.
songs. I mean,
Yep.
you would be surprised when you find out the origins of those ice cream songs. That blew my mind too.
Yeah.
So I just think it's like it matters in the settings that you do things. Just because it's okay for you when you were growing up to say it amongst your friends, it doesn't mean you bring that into the classroom. To Greer's point, It just matters, and it was totally inappropriate. And I wonder if, like somebody brought up the superintendent, if the school board is going to do something about that.
Yeah,
Listen,
exactly.
Niele knows she would be up at that school with her slides on if her nephew.
With the slides on.
They told her, them kids, the teacher calling her a monkey. She'd be up at
Right.
the.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just glad that it wasn't my child. I'm just so glad because yes, they would have saw you. It was a what's that cartoon? The Sheriff Bing Bing Bing. I mean, shoot, give me a break. Folks, colon cancer is on track to become the #1 cancer killer of people under 50 by 2030, and Black communities are facing the harshest impact with higher rates of late stage diagnosis and deaths. In Georgia, a group called Georgia Core, CORE, is stepping into that fight with a bold campaign called Weird Looking Stools, using art and conversation in unexpected places to break stigma and save lives. This morning, we have the person who's helping to lead this work, Katrina Davis, the Senior Program Manager at Georgia Core, who oversees the Georgia Colorectal Cancer Control Program and statewide health initiatives. Katrina, welcome to Let It Be Known.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me this morning.
Absolutely. So, listen, why have you found why are Black men and women being hit hardest by colon cancer?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. And we are being hit hardest by colon cancer because of a lot of different reasons. And the research is still out there. People are still researching why all this is happening, but a lot of it goes to diet and lifestyle, which is one of the causes of colon cancer in general for all. So what we're eating, all the good, delicious foods in excess can potentially cause colon cancer, like processed meats, deli meats, particularly hot dogs, things like that, all the yummy sausages that we love, especially in the South. I'm from South Carolina. And things like that, as well as lifestyle, such as having more sedentary lifestyles or what have you. So a lot of those are the cause for colon cancer for anyone. But, when we're talking about Black Americans, sometimes we are having more of those than some other racial groups. So we may be at more of a increase for risk because of that reason. And then when you're talking about access to medical care, sometimes we are screening later than what's recommended. So when we do finally go get screened, sometimes we've progressed in stages in colon cancer. Whereas if we would have went sooner or gotten screened at the recommended age, which is currently 45, perhaps it would have been found sooner. So sometimes that is the issue as well.
We talk a lot about intervention and prevention. You talked a lot about, you touched on some of the foods that we eat, but what are some of the other preventative things that we can do so that we don't get colon cancer?
I would say definitely back to food. So having nutrient-rich diets. I've seen a lot about fiber in the research. And making sure we have enough fruits and vegetables, low in meat, exercising with the American Heart Association's recommendations of 30 minutes a day, 5 times a week, and being mindful of all of that, taking care of our guts and our colons, and also being screened at our recommended age, which is 45 now. And for younger people, which we're actually seeing a lot more cases of colon cancer occur in people under 50 years old, we have to be more mindful about what the signs or symptoms might be of colon cancer. So that means even though the recommendation is not for you to be screened until 45, maybe you're 40, but you're experiencing some stool that looks a little odd. Maybe your stool is usually a certain kind of way, but now it's skinny or, it's very bloody. And that's something that you have to recognize and act on. So I know a lot of people don't like to look back at the stool and see what's going on down there, but just look behind you, see what's there, know what your normal is. And then if something is not within that, make sure you talk to your doctor about that. And there's other symptoms that could be potential signs of colon cancer, such as stomach pain, losing weight rapidly and unexpectedly. So I know we all like to lose weight, but if you haven't been trying and all of a sudden you're losing weight, that could be a cause for concern. And it might not be colon cancer, it could be something else, but it's something that you should go speak to your doctor about to try to see what your options are and go from there.
Katrina, tell us a couple of things, a little bit about Georgia Core and what makes weird looking stools different from traditional awareness campaigns.
Yeah, so Georgia Core is a statewide nonprofit based in Georgia. We have office in Atlanta, but we actually work with hospital systems, federally qualified healthcare centers, and other nonprofits in all of Georgia. So we partner with those organizations to make sure that we can get people screened in the community. We also get people connected to cancer clinical trials across Georgia, and also have education and policy work that we do as well. So we partner with other organizations to maximize our reach about cancer in the community. And this particular campaign is very different for us, and is very different for cancer in general, because we're taking a different approach to using these weird, odd looking stools to call attention to colon cancer. And when you see them, you're like, oh, what's going on with that stool? So draws your attention and you get a bit curious. So if you're in one of these bars or coffee shops, you'll take notice, ask what's going on. And then you'll see a little card at the coffee shop that will give you more information about what we're talking about today, like the signs, the symptoms, what to do next, and all of that great stuff.
So you mentioned that you are a nonprofit, right, organization, and so we know that the federal government, we're under a shutdown, and a lot of funding if you're getting federal grants. Do you see that what's happening right now at our state capitol will impact the work that you're doing at CORE?
We do receive some federal grants, but we are not impacted at this time.
Okay.
That's good to know. We think about of course, the bad effects, the negative effects, so many. But can you share a success story or moment that showed you or you guys that this campaign is working?
Yes, and we just launched the campaign a couple of weeks ago. But when I was on our Facebook page a little while ago, like a couple of days ago, I was looking at some of the comments, and it was a few men in the comments talking about how one of them needed to go see a doctor. They had an appointment coming up and they need to go see a doctor because they noticed something weird down there or whatever. And there was a dialogue going on between a couple of people on Facebook. And that made me think, oh, this is working, because one of them even mentioned that they were, I think, about 37. And then I was being nosy and I saw that the other one was young too. So we're reaching people that we need to reach who might not have thought about this, especially because many people associate colon cancer with being older. And a lot of older people still are getting colon cancer, but we're seeing so many younger people getting it too. So it's something that we have to get on everybody's mind, that it's possible that this could happen to you. And we're seeing a rise in colon cancer cases for people under 50 years old. And by 2030 is actually projected to be the #1 cancer killer of people under 50. So it's something that we have to act on now so that we can prevent that from happening.
Is there a resource or, on your website or something that you can let our viewers know about to just learn more about, prevention, intervention for colon cancer?
Yeah, so we have a website called weirdlookingstools.com. You can also make it there from that page as well, from Georgia Core. But the campaign's website is weirdlookingstools.com. So that will tell people everything that they need to know about what to do next. So what the signs are, the symptoms, if they have those, what they should do next. And we've even linked out free resources for people to find providers that may be able to offer a free screening for them if they're eligible for that. And then I'll also say that for those that are under the recommended age of 45, a lot of times you do have to start with your primary care doctor, and that doctor will assess you and then potentially refer you to a specialist who will recommend a colonoscopy if necessary. But if you're over 45, you can go see your primary care provider, and they can actually let you know if you're eligible for a stool-based test or if you need to get a colonoscopy. And a lot of that is based on your health history, your family history.
Yeah, Dr. Joni, who's watching, she says prevention, annual checkups, catching things early can be the difference between life and death. And she also says that the rates of cancer in older people are actually dropping, while rates among people 50 and under, as you said, Katrina, are jumping at alarming rates. Now, with your campaign, you mentioned about bars and lounges. How do bars, lounges, and cultural spaces change the way we talk about colon cancer?
Yes, and her comment is absolutely spot on. So bars and lounges or coffee shops can change the conversation because those are often places where people come in community, they have conversation, even relax a little. You might talk to a neighbor or a stranger that you never talked to. And then if you see some of these, this could start a dialogue between you two where it prompts you into action. So whether that's thinking about something and saying, I know I need to do this one day, so I'm going to put this on my mental checklist, or even just going ahead and finding you a doctor that you can go be seen by. So we're using a place where conversation happens naturally to introduce a very taboo topic, especially stools.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I love art, and looking at those stools, they give the impression of they represent different viruses or things like
Mhm.
that. A very creative way to mix art and health, art and activism. Who came up with that idea?
Yeah, so we work with an artist, Julian Scalia, who actually created these, and they are based off of some of the signs and symptoms of colon cancer. So some might be, based off of a skinny stool or blood in your stool. So you're have a good eye there.
No, I love that. You're right. It is a conversation starter, right? Because it's like, what is this? And then it's like, oh, okay, it has to do with this campaign about cancer. Let's talk about it
Mhm.
over a Cosmopolitan.
Exactly.
Finally, from me, Katrina, and again, thanks so much for coming on this morning. This is some great information.
Mhm.
If someone watching today, this morning, or if they decide to watch this program a little bit later today, if they take away one thing, what should it be?
I would say don't be afraid to act on taking care of yourself and finding out what's what. So I'll just give a personal example that I personally lost my father in his early 50s from colon cancer. So this campaign is really near and dear to me. And I always think, with all of the information that I know now, if he had known that a simple test could potentially have prevented his cancer, removed it at that time, removed his cancer at that time in early stages, he could have potentially been here because when he found his cancer, he was at stage 3. So he fit kind of this research and this textbook stuff that we see that Black Americans often present at a later stage. So perhaps he could have saved his life if he knew all of this information. So our goal is to get this information out there so that people can know the signs, the symptoms of colon cancer, check their stools, and then act on that information. And then I know that costs can be prohibitive sometimes, but there are so many resources out here now where you can get connected to some free screening tests if you need to. There are many nonprofits and hospitals that are working very hard to provide colonoscopies for free or reduced cost. So we need to push through and find out what's going on down there so that we can potentially save our lives. And sometimes it's as simple as a screening test that can do that for us. So yes, that's what I would share today.
Thank you so much for this important information. And I know a lot of times we get so caught up in the headlines of just reacting to what's being thrown at us. Conversations like this are critical, just to everyday living. So we really appreciate you sharing it.
Of course, no problem.
Katrina Davis, thanks so much, Georgia Core. Y'all look it up. Georgia Core, they have a website, and so does the campaign. So check it out. It's
And I hope they take
important conversation.
that stool art around the country.
Right, exactly. We should have asked
That's pretty dope.
her.
Yeah,
Look at Nancy Wall said, "Look at your stuff."
it's right on the stool. All right, a few more headlines to get through before we check out. Let's head to some HBCU news where the library at Prairie View A&M University was evacuated yesterday morning after the building received a bomb threat. Now, the university confirmed it received the threat at the library. It evacuated the building, and university police are investigating. And a bomb threat also prompted evacuations at Lone Star College University Park Library as well. And so we see that these attacks are happening at our HBCUs. And it's funny because all of these different crises that are happening, we don't know if this was, but we know that the pattern is white men.
Well, we also know you mentioned those two schools yesterday as well. Towson State and Morgan State University had bomb threats yesterday.
As
So
well, yeah.
yeah, two HBCUs. So you're right. This attack. Fortunately, these threats have so far been just that, threats. But you never know when it's going to be the real thing. And it's this racist mindset that's attacked HBCUs now.
Right. I mean, we really need to continue to talk about white men in terrorist attacks being the number one threat to domestic violence and domestic terrorism in this country. But since we're on HBCUs, I want to head over to Southern University, where the family of Caleb Wilson, the young man that was killed in an Omega Psi Phi hazing ritual, has filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the fraternity, Southern University, and multiple individuals. And this also comes after the East Baton Rouge coroner ruled Caleb's death a homicide. And we know that there are 3 members of Omega Psi Phi that have been charged with his murder. And so it'll just be interesting to see how this plays out, because it's not just Caleb. It's 4 Black men whose lives are ruined forever just to be a part of a fraternity.
Orange E says he'll be doing a show tonight, and we'll be discussing the lack of concern from the federal government when it comes to threats aimed at HBCUs. And that situation there, as you're talking about now, again, they're suing everybody, and as well they should. And this hazing stuff, we talked about this before. It's just ridiculous. Again, it is way out of hand.
It is. It truly is. And just one more important note that we should continue to pay attention. You brought up when Hakeem and Schumer were in Trump's office that he had the 2028 hats on his desk. The Missouri House has voted 90-65 to approve a Trump-backed redistricting, which would cut Democrats down to 1 U.S. House seat. So as you know, all of this conversation was about Texas, and we're looking at what's happening here in California. There are still multiple states that Donald Trump is redistricting, gerrymandering, and we should definitely pay attention to that, because those are the stories that get lost in the headlines, and then they pop back up, and it's too late for the people to respond.
Yeah, that's Cleaver's seat in Missouri that they are trying to slice out.
So we'll continue to track that. And then finally, on a funny, smelly note, Lionel Richie just dropped a new book called Truly. Remember that song, Truly, by Lionel? Yep. And it says Michael Jackson was nicknamed Smelly. Now, Lionel said Jackson sometimes smelled because of poor hygiene habits, particularly wearing the same clothes for days at a time. He said Michael would wear falling apart jeans and no deodorant, which led to the teasing nickname Smelly, which was coined by Quincy Jones.
So he said that sometimes he gave him a change of underwear too.
And he would leave the stinky, and he would leave the stinky clothes at his house.
Which is wild. Now, when Quincy first told the story years and years and years ago about giving Michael that nickname, Quincy couched it a different way. Just so folks will know, Quincy said that he gave him the nickname Smelly because they'd be in the studio and Michael could smell a hit. He could smell a hit, so I call him Smelly. And people, when he said that, when Quincy made that comment, and this is way going back to the 80s, even then it was questioned as to, oh no, Quincy means something else. And now Lionel is saying, yeah, Quincy definitely meant something else.
Well, I mean, I think that's what makes it funny for Quincy to do that, because it's an inside joke. And for those who know, no.
Right.
And it is true on both ends. Michael could smell a hit. Okay. He could smell a hit.
Smell a hit.
And he smelled like a bad hit too.
Horrible. Why does he have to write that?
According to Lionel Richie. Now Patricia Jackson is saying, why does he feel the need
I
to
just
say
said
that?
that, right? Exactly. Why is it that Lionel Richie decides that there, there are things people put in their books to try and make sure that they sell it, right? Lionel Richie didn't need that passage, in my opinion, to try and sell his book. Why do that?
Well, I mean, everybody writes books and gives a little tea.
Yeah, that's true. Patricia Jackson said, "Tell your own story," and Dr. Marilyn said, "Come on,
Come
Lionel."
on, Lionel. Well, you know who's gonna come out and say something, Janet and Randy. They don't play. So I'm sure once they get wind of that headline.
Listen, maybe they got wind of it. Maybe they got wind of him.
No point intended. But I mean, regardless, Michael Jackson forever. And if you haven't, I think I brought it up a while back, but there is a documentary on Netflix about the making of We Are the World. And you can see a lot of the relationship between Quincy Jones, Lionel Richie, and Michael Jackson in writing the song We Are the World, the role Stevie Wonder played into it. And that night after the American Music Awards, when all of the artists came to sing that great song written by Lionel Richie, Michael Jackson, and produced by Quincy Jones.
Now, I will say,
great documentary.
I will say those photos, Lionel says he's smelly, but Lionel is hugged up with him on both of those photos. Was he smelly then, Lionel?
Well, maybe that was when he was over
After
his
he
house.
cleaned them up?
Yeah, after he cleaned them up.
Dr. Joni says that especially because something like that leads you to wonder what was going on with Michael, mental health issues, etc. Just not something to joke around about, especially since he's no longer here. And that it does lead to the thought of mental health issues.
Yeah. The Stephanie Humphrey channel says, I was thinking the same thing, Sister Patricia, LOL, Sister Niele, but some tea should never be spilled. And that is true as well.
Dr. Marilyn said, no, not smelling like bubbles.
But you know what happens too when publishing houses get a book, maybe he turned the book in and they was like, we know you got some more secrets. This is not going to sell. We need at least one juicy thing that we can use in the headlines to make people buy the book. And he gave us Smelly Jackson.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well.
All right. And those are your headlines for today.
All right, folks, some Black history. On this date in 1962, James Meredith made history when he became the first Black student to register at the University of Mississippi. He applied to the institution after spending 9 years in the Air Force and 2 at Jackson State University. Meredith was twice denied admission because of his race. He fought the discriminatory decision all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, which ruled in his favor. But still, when he first tried to register on September 20th, racist whites were so opposed that riots erupted and 2 people were killed. President John Kennedy had to send in the Mississippi National Guard to stop the violence and escort him onto the campus. The following August, he was awarded a bachelor's degree, becoming the first Black to graduate from Ole Miss. And, what's interesting too, folks, and this is some great history way back on 1962, what was interesting, 20 years later, when they was having a reunion, they wanted him to be the guest of honor. He said no. He said, I remember how y'all treated me. No, I'm not doing it. So good for him.
Good for him. And a few music history facts for today that, we can celebrate and you can go home or after the show, turn it up. On October 1st, 1945, Donny Hathaway, the celebrated R&B singer, was born in Chicago, Illinois. And on this day in 1991, Public Enemy released Apocalypse 91, The Enemy Strikes Black, on October 1st, 1991. And on the same day, Prince released his album, Diamonds and Pearls.
Yes. Diamonds and Pearls. It was
turn it up.
Yes.
And look, we can start dusting off this Christmas by Donny Hathaway because we are 3 months away.
Wow. Okay, folks. The Black-owned newspaper of the day is the Mississippi Link. The Mississippi Link is an African American-owned newspaper and media company that emphasizes the concerns of the African American community and its readers. The paper's targeted audience includes predominantly Black men and women, students, business owners, educators, and other professionals within the age range of 21 to 65. They also cater to the kids too. The Mississippi Link is distributed by mail subscription sales, coin operated racks, and various retail outlets throughout the state of Mississippi. And of course, you can get it online.
And before I give you the tag, Dr. Maryland says Lionel needs his ass kicked. He was wrong.
Now they want to be, see, Lionel Richie, that's the price you got to pay now. They
Right.
beat
You
up.
know, hey, and Dr. Joni says she loves Donnie. I just had to get those two in. But for the latest in Black news, there's a lot happening on Capitol Hill. We have Lauren, April Ryan in DC, boots on the ground, keeping us updated. So definitely check out BlackPressUSA.com.
And I got a story coming for y'all on Hakeem Jeffries later today.
Ooh.
Check out Black Press USA.
Oh, okay.
That's
Stacy.
right. That's right. That's right. And we're not playing. We're not pulling any punches anymore. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.